They told you sleep was simple. Close your eyes and rest. But what if that's the biggest lie we've been sold? Because if sleep were easy, why do so many collapse into it and still wake up? Empty, heavy, unsure of where they left themselves last? Maybe it's not the body that needs rest. Maybe it's the memory. And tonight, under the strawberry moon, you're not just going to sleep. You're going to remember. This isn't guided meditation. It's not manifesting. It's not some sugar-coated story with a fairy tale ending. This is mythology to sleep to. But the kind they don't tell children, the kind that finds women at 2 a.m., men who forgot how to cry, the part of you that used to believe in something softer. You'll meet Selene, who sees what no one else sees. You'll stand beside Hécate at the threshold of your next chapter, and you'll witness Rhea, who once broke time itself to protect what mattered most. So close your eyes if you want, but don't expect to disappear. Expect to arrive beneath the full moon in Sagittarius, in the arms of ancient goddesses, where moonlight symbolism doesn't just glow, it guides. And by the time this is over, you won't just be relaxed. You'll be realigned, because she rose under the strawberry moon. And maybe you did too. There's something different about tonight, isn't there? Maybe it's the way the light seems softer, like a whispering lullaby brushing against your thoughts. Or maybe it's the quiet pull of the strawberry moon, that ancient companion who never says a word but always knows what you're feeling. This isn't just any full moon in June. It's a night threaded with memory and myth. The kind of night where even the trees seem to remember. And when the moon rises in Sagittarius, bold and unfiltered, it doesn't just illuminate the sky, it illuminates you. If you've ever had the feeling that the moon is watching you, not judging, just witnessing, you're not alone. For centuries, souls have turned their faces upward, looking for something more than just light. Tonight, under this moonlight symbolism, it's your turn to listen to the stories that have always been there, waiting in the shadows of mythological time, to the goddess voices that never shout, but always echo deep. This isn't sleep. This is remembering who you are and maybe who you were once. So here's a question. When was the last time you let yourself truly pause? Not scroll, not reply, not perform, just be. Nights like this were made for pause, made for moon rituals, for slipping into a full moon meditation not filled with effort, but filled with presence. Maybe you light a candle. Maybe you wrap yourself in silence like a second skin. Maybe you simply listen. Because the myths that live beneath the full moon in Sagittarius don't need your effort. They need your presence. And yes, you could just fall asleep. That's allowed. After all, these are mythological stories for sleep. But maybe, just maybe, part of you wants to stay awake a little longer. There's something comforting about the idea that while your body rests, your soul wanders, guided by Selene, Hécate, and the moon's soft path. These are the nights for the divine feminine mythology to unfold like silk, warm and ancient, soft but mighty. And even if your eyes close, something deeper listens. Because tonight is different. There's an opening here, a doorway that wasn't here yesterday and won't be tomorrow. That's what the old ones said about Strawberry Moon, that she appears when the veil is thin, when the threshold between the real and the remembered dissolves. And just beyond that veil, someone is waiting to tell you a story. A goddess, perhaps. Or maybe a mirror. Selene, the silent watcher. Selene doesn't shout. She doesn't beg for attention. She simply rises, steady, luminous, and unapologetically soft. While others burn or fade, Selene glides in silence, casting her moonlight symbolism not just over oceans, but over hearts that have forgotten how to feel. She is the lullaby for grown souls, and on nights like this strawberry moon, she watches not with judgment, but with memory. You won't see her name trending, and she doesn't care. Her wisdom lives in stillness, in the spaces between your thoughts. Ever notice how your best ideas come when you're just staring at the ceiling? That's Selene. She's the whisper between pages of an old journal. The reason why, under a full moon in June, you suddenly remember things you thought you'd buried. She doesn't force insight. She invites it. Think of her as the keeper of lunar mirrors, the one who holds up reflection when you're too tired to chase it. Want to connect with her? Simple. Place a glass of water by the window tonight. Let it catch the moonlight. That's an ancient moon ritual passed from women to daughters to dreamers. In the morning, drink it. Not because it's magic, but because you are. And Selene reminds you, she is what they meant when they said the moon knows your secrets. But she doesn't weaponize them. She wraps them in velvet and sings them back to you, quietly, through dreams. The best mythology to sleep to isn't about battles or power. It's about returning to softness, to feminine strength, to the part of you that doesn't need to prove, only to be. That's the real divine feminine mythology, and Selene never walks alone. Her silver footprints echo into darker corridors, deeper archetypes. Beyond her, just slightly off to the side where shadows gather and choices echo, waits another. She doesn't glide. She stands at the edge, waiting, not to guide you forward, but to make sure you're ready to cross. Hécate, the threshold keeper. You don't meet Hécate in the light. You meet her in moments of decision, when something has to end, so something else can begin. She's not here to comfort. She's here to stand beside you while you tremble, torch in hand, eyes sharp, voice quiet. That's why she's the keeper of thresholds. And under the full moon in Sagittarius, when truths can't hide, she becomes impossible to ignore. Some call her frightening, but that's because they've only met her through fear. Truth is, Hécate waits at the places no one wants to go. Endings, losses, choices that tear. She's the goddess of before and after, an alba, of I can't do this, and I did it anyway. Ever stood in front of a closed door, heart pounding, knowing it was time? That's her shadow beside you. That's her whisper. Go. She doesn't need you to be fearless. She needs you to be willing. That's the difference. You don't have to know the whole path. Just take one step. Want to honor her tonight? Write down something you've been avoiding. A truth, a goodbye, a dream that scares you, and burn it under the strawberry moon. Fire transforms. Hécate waits at the fire's edge. She always has. When your heart feels like a battlefield between who you were and who you're becoming, she's the one lighting the torches. And in those moments, even sleep becomes sacred. That's why this is more than a mythological story for sleep. It's a moon ritual, disguised as a bedtime tale, because Hécate knows the ones who rest with intention wake up different. But no one crosses a threshold forever. Sooner or later, you find yourself standing in a place beyond choice, a quiet aftershock, and there, something deeper stirs. Not fear, not duty, but a different kind of knowing, one that belongs to someone much older, much wiser. She doesn't arrive, she reminds. Rhea. The courage to break time. Rhea doesn't just belong to the past, she bends it. You don't hear much about her these days, but she was once the Great Mother, the force before the gods, the breath before the word. She held power when power had no name, and gave birth to time itself. Then she defied it. That's the kind of story most people skip, but not under the strawberry moon. Imagine holding the future in your arms, knowing it would be taken from you. Imagine still choosing to protect it. That was Rhea. Her myth isn't loud, it's layered, like memory. She's the part of you that chooses to do the right thing even when no one sees. Tonight, she calls out to anyone who's ever broken a cycle. Anyone who dared to say, "This ends with me." That's courage. Want to embody Rhea? Start simple. Notice one thing in your family or routine that's just repetition, not tradition, but survival. Then ask yourself, do I want this to continue? Breaking time doesn't mean breaking people. It means making room. That's what moon rituals under the full moon in June are for, releasing inherited patterns, not punishing them. You honor the past by changing the future. Her energy is quiet but undeniable, like the breath that catches in your throat before you say something true. Rhea teaches you that some things are worth protecting at all costs. Your peace, your intuition, your children, your story. She's the whisper in mythical feminine archetypes that says, don't just survive this, transform it. And transformation always comes wrapped in moonlight. And once time cracks, something pours through, not chaos, clarity. That's when mirrors begin to appear, not to show you flaws or failures, but fragments of who you still are, beneath all the roles. And just like that, you find yourself face to face with something familiar, not a goddess, not a myth, but your own reflection, refracted through moon and memory. The mirror of the moon. Who you still are. The moon doesn't ask you to become anything. She just reflects. That's why when you look up at her, especially during the strawberry moon, you might feel something stir. A memory, a name, a version of you that used to laugh louder or cry easier. The full moon in Sagittarius has a habit of pulling truth to the surface, and sometimes that truth is, you miss yourself. There's a mirror in the sky tonight, and it's not just symbolic. It's ancient. In every soft beam, there's a quiet reminder of who you were before the noise, the plans, the pleasing. That's the gift of moonlight symbolism. It reveals, but never shames. And in that soft reveal, something remarkable happens. You begin to recognize yourself not by roles, but by essence. It's not about going back. It's about remembering forward, like seeing childhood photos and finally understanding what that look in your eyes meant. Want to touch that version of you again? Try this. Tonight, speak your own name aloud under the moon, not as mom or boss or partner, just your name. That's a lunar myth, bedtime ritual older than language and strangely freeing. Selene reflects, Hécate challenges, Rhea anchors. But you remember. And sometimes that remembering is enough to shift everything. That's the quiet magic of mythological stories for sleep. They don't just lull you. They reawaken what you thought was lost. And when that happens, even stillness becomes a form of movement, a way back to presence. But here's the thing about mirrors. They're never just about surface. If you look long enough, the reflection deepens. Beneath it, you begin to sense something else. A light not made of ego or memory, but of knowing. And that knowing doesn't scold. It listens. It stays. It becomes the light that doesn't judge. And suddenly, sleep feels like a return home. There's a kind of moonlight that doesn't ask questions, doesn't measure your progress or track your productivity. It just is. And when you lie beneath it, eyes closed, heart open, you realize something no one ever taught you. Not everything sacred has to be earned. That's the kind of light the strawberry moon brings, soft but uncompromising in its honesty. Beneath this full moon in June, the rules shift. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to be better. You just have to be here. That's what makes it a goddess mythology bedtime story worth listening to, because it's not trying to change you. It's trying to remind you that you were never broken. Even your mistakes belong to you, and that is sacred. Hécate knows your shadows. Rhea knows your patterns. Selene knows your silence. But this light, it knows your wholeness. It knows that sleep can be healing without a to-do list, that listening to whispering myths with your head on a pillow is just as powerful as chanting in a temple. This is where moon rituals become something more intimate, permission to rest. And under that light, something begins to open, a breath, a memory, a possibility. You start to realize that rest is not the opposite of growth. It's what makes it possible. That's why this isn't just mythology to sleep to. It's an act of quiet rebellion. In a world that worships hustle, letting go becomes holy, especially when done under the watchful glow of ancient goddesses. So tonight, don't reach, don't strive, just lie back and receive. The stories will carry you, the moon will watch over you, and something, maybe something old, maybe something just awakening, will stay with you long after your eyes close. Because once you've been seen by light, that doesn't judge. You never forget what that felt like. So, now that you've been seen by the moon, what will you do with that? Will you go back to pretending you're fine? Back to shrinking around people who never even looked up? Or will you follow that whisper that woke up inside you tonight? Because here's the truth. The moon never speaks in commands. She speaks in invitations. This was more than a story. It was a mirror. And you looked. So what did you see? Maybe tonight you'll light a candle, speak your name, or simply let the silence speak first. Maybe you'll reread an old journal. Maybe you'll just lie in bed and whisper to yourself, I remember. Whatever you choose, let it come from the part of you that heard something real. Now I want to know, what did this night awaken in you? What memory came back? What version of you knocked on the door? Tell me in the comments. I'm listening. And if you want to keep remembering, if you want to keep coming back to yourself, then subscribe, turn on the bell, because there's more to uncover under this moonlight. And she's not done with you yet.